Bolivian social and political organisations continue to denounce the electoral court's decision to postpone the date of the general elections. There are warnings of possible flash floods in the north of Mexico this Monday as tropical depression Hanna continues to hit the area. Former Ivorian President Henri Konan Bedie has announced he is standing for the opposition Democratic Party in the October presidential elections. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. Bolivian social and political organisations continue to denounce the electoral court's decision to postpone the date of the general elections. They're calling on the Supreme Electoral Tribunal to comply with the previous agreement that set September 6 as the date for the country's elections. Popular and indigenous organisations are preparing to hold protests this week to add to the pressure. Despite this scenario, the President of the Electoral Tribunal, Salvador Romero, has reiterated that October 18th is now the definitive date for the vote. The elections in Bolivia have been postponed 3 times because of the pandemic, as the de facto authorities work to tighten and extend their grip on power. The Movement Towards Socialism Party has announced that its leaders are being persecuted in order to prevent their participation in the elections. And inmates at Bolivia's San Sebastian prison in the western city of Cochabamba protested this Monday over the lack of coronavirus safety measures. The prisoners are demanding government medical assistance given the rapid spread of COVID-19 across the country. The protesters called on authorities to intervene as the number of cases rises in Cochabamba, stressing that they have no access to doctors or medicines. Bolivia has officially reported more than 2,500 COVID-19 deaths and over 69,000 cases among its population of 11 million.
Very happy because I had been wanting to come for a long time and I couldn't. The church wasn't open and now I was very pleased to be able to visit the Blessed Sacrament to talk to him.
We want medical teams. We know there are 3 deaths among us and other people deceased in the police. But until today we have not received information about the death of the other inmates.
Brazilian health workers this Monday urged the International Criminal Court to investigate President Jair Bolsonaro's government for crimes against humanity over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic. The case was presented in The Hague by a coalition of unions which represent more than 1 million healthcare workers across Brazil. In a statement, the unions accused Bolsonaro's far-right administration of being criminally negligent in its management of the COVID-19 pandemic, thus risking the lives of healthcare professionals and the Brazilian population. Secretary for the Americas region of the UNI Global Union Federation, Marcio Monsani, stated that the Bolsonaro administration must be held accountable for its response to the pandemic. A Chilean palliative care unit in Santiago, where at least 60 COVID-19 patients have died, has found ways to make sure its patients are not dying alone and enjoy a bit of comfort and dignity in their last hours. The initiatives include filling the room with their favourite music, holding their hands and, if possible, inviting a family member to be by their side.
I have always liked palliative care because more than the procedure, it's all about love and being there. We like that area, and although it has been a tough experience, it has also been very beautiful. They breathe faster, their pulse beats faster, and patients who had no movement at all are moving. So this confirms to us that by the day that hearing is the last sense that they lost before death, and that is why we also convey to the families to assurance that the patients will receive the message. We had patients who were musicians and patients who were from the country, who like to sing country songs all the time. We look for songs from the countryside on YouTube, we play those songs for them, and the patients will relax, open their eyes, move their hands, and after that they will leave.
When the novel coronavirus closed Guatemala's schools in mid-March, teacher Gerardo Iscoy invested his savings in a second-hand tricycle. He transformed the tricycle into a mobile classroom with plastic sheets to protect against virus transmission, a whiteboard and a small solar panel which powers the audio player he uses for some of the lessons he teaches. Each day, the 27-year-old pedals among the cornfields of Santa Cruz del Quiche to offer individual classes to his 6th grade students. The initiative was born of necessity, as illiteracy in the area is about 42% and only about 13% of homes have internet access.
I wanted to help them because they lack technological tools, such as computers, printers, internet. That's where the idea to take the knowledge to their doors comes from, and watching out for COVID-19, of course. Things have changed a lot because now I'm not receiving normal classes. Teacher Lalito only comes for a little while to teach me, but I learn a lot. When they saw me pedaling, at first they laughed, but they soon realized I was helping them, and parents were also very pleased. I believe they are my engine, the fuel to keep on pedaling to help them learn. In the same way, they have taught me a lot. They are teaching me how to teach.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced that his government is considering 2 offers to buy the presidential plane, which he says is an example of the excesses that were committed under previous administrations. The plane will be sold outright, and the president noted there are now 2 bidders, one of whom is offering a mix of cash and medical equipment for the jet. That buyer has already put down a $1 million deposit and signed an initial contract, but the president explained that last week another all-cash offer emerged. The Mexican government estimates that the plane is worth $120 million. It was purchased in 2012 for about $200 million.
There are already these possible buyers, and that money, and also what is obtained through the raffle, is for public health. This plan is an example of the excesses that were committed. The purpose of holding this press conference with the airliner is to make known to the people of Mexico how the country was poorly governed, how there were luxuries in the government throughout the neoliberal period.
And we'll be right back after this short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Streets in the northern Mexican city of Monterrey were flooded by heavy rains unleashed by Tropical Depression Hanna on Sunday. The U.S. National Hurricane Center warned that continued rains could trigger flash flooding and mudslides in the northern states of the country this Monday. Hanna became the first hurricane of the North Atlantic hurricane season before being downgraded to a tropical storm on Sunday. Hanna made landfall in Texas late on Saturday to become the first Atlantic hurricane to hit the U.S. state in the month of July since Dolly in 2008, before moving on to Mexico. And this Monday, police and soldiers worked to clean up roadblocks and debris from the streets in the state of Nuevo León in northeastern Mexico after Tropical Depression Hanna brought heavy rain and storm surges. A search continues for an 11-year-old boy who's believed to have fallen into a stream in Monterrey and been dragged away by the current. The Caribbean community this Monday began a virtual security conference to analyse issues in the region in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The conference, the first of its kind to be held by CARICOM member states, will analyse the challenges, impact, implications and experiences of the COVID-19 pandemic on regional security. The 4-day conference is hosted by the CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security under the title Securing Our Community within the Era of COVID-19 and Beyond. The objective is to identify best practices that can be applied to similar situations in the future. The virtual meeting will bring together experts in the field, government officials, academics and representatives of the private sector and civil society. The agenda includes debates on peace, security and development, criminality and organised crime, cyber security, borders, gender violence, climate change and resilience, and maritime security. This Monday, the representative of the Pan American Health Organization and WHO to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean commended the region on its efforts to address the impact of COVID-19, while noting that everyone has a role to play in the fight against the pandemic.
The COVID-19 pandemic continues to accelerate with over 15 million people and 15 million persons and cases with 630,000 deaths reported to WHO globally. The pandemic has already changed the way we live our lives. Part of adjusting to the new normal is finding a way to live our lives safely. That's what the Director General mentioned. Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean countries have shown that with sustained political leadership and action backed by community and people's support, the COVID-19 can be suppressed no matter the stage and transmission phase. As you have illustrated in many global fora, moral leadership, prioritizing of vulnerable population, whole of government and whole of society approach are among the key principles to fight this virus. Everyone has a role to play in fighting this epidemic.
And in Barbados, former Prime Minister Owen Seymour Arthur passed away this Monday at the age of 70. Seymour Arthur, who was served as Barbados' fifth Prime Minister, was hospitalised in mid-July with heart complications. The former Prime Minister led the country for an unprecedented 3 consecutive terms from 1994 to 2008, having served as a Member of Parliament from 1984 to 2013. According to Barbadian authorities, a period of national mourning will be observed for 3 days, with the national flag flown at half-mast.
Or should be done, but merely a group that could at best.
The Director General of the World Health Organization has noted that nearly 16 million coronavirus cases have now been reported to the UN Health Agency, as well as more than 600,000 deaths worldwide. On Thursday, the WHO Director will convene the organization's Emergency Committee as part of a procedural requirement 6 months after the declaration of a public health emergency of international concern. The Director General stressed that strong political leadership, education to raise awareness of the risks, increased testing, hygiene and physical distancing measures have proven effective in several countries that have carefully followed guidelines to fight the virus.
COVID-19 has changed our world. It has brought people, communities and nations together and driven them apart. It has shown what humans are capable of, both positively and negatively. We have learned an enormous amount, and we're still learning. But although our world has changed, the fundamental pillars of the response have not. As we mark 6 months since the declaration of the global health emergency, the COVID-19 pandemic is illustrating that health is not a reward for development. It's the foundation of social, economic, and political stability. We are not prisoners of the pandemic. Every single one of us can make a difference. The future is in our hands.
Executive Director of Emergencies. And
Julian Assange's lawyer Baltasar Garzón arrived on Monday at the Spanish National Court in Madrid to testify in the espionage case against his client. The case surrounds the alleged espionage activities against Assange while he was residing in the Ecuadorian embassy in London between 2015 and 2018 by the Spanish security company UC Global. The defence states that Assange was spied on in multiple ways, including taking his fingerprints from a glass and stealing a dirty nappy to conduct DNA tests after he was visited by his children. Fidel Narváez, former consul of Ecuador in London, and Assange's partner Stella Morris have also been summoned as witnesses.
And this email from Mr. Morales in September 2017 asked...
Hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets in Italy on Monday to urge the government to stop funding the Libyan Coast Guard, which they claim commits torture and rape in Libyan migrant detention centres.
2 months ago, we had a verdict of the Tribunal of Messina that has assessed that inside the migrant detention centers in Libya, tortures are taking place. This verdict comes after months' testimonies, journalist reports and NGOs' investigations. Therefore, continuing funding and refunding the Libyan Coast Guard means to become accomplices in severe violations of human rights.
When the so-called Coastal Guard, the Libyan Coastal Guard, takes some of them, they are brought back in what are not prison, frankly speaking, but are terrible lager, and now all the proven are there, the proofs are there that they are normally tortured, raped.
Restaurant and cafe owners held a 1-hour strike in Kosovo on Monday to protest against what they claim is a lack of support from the government, while noting a drastic reduction in their income due to COVID-19 restrictions across the country.
I expect conditions for all business and gastronomy to improve. We expect the government to give grants for salaries of employees, to help us with 60% of rents, the postponements of the loans and to lower value-added tax. We basically want our rights like all the rest of the world. So far, we have had very little support from the government. We have been closed for 3 months due to the pandemic, and the business had no income apart from the 170 euros that the government gave for the employees. We didn't get any help for the rent. Now we are open, but we need to close at 9 p.m. These new measures are okay, but still they have an impact on us since we are a night bar and we cannot work full capacity.
A firefighter was killed and 4 injured in a traffic accident while fighting a forest fire in central Portugal that's set to continue burning through Wednesday. According to civil protection authorities, firefighter Diogo Dias was killed this weekend in a traffic accident in the context of fighting a fire that broke out in Oleiros, central Portugal. Meanwhile, on Sunday, more than 700 firefighters and 14 water bomber planes fought the fire that broke out on Saturday evening before spreading to the Castelo Branco region, 200 kilometers north of the capital, Lisbon. We have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Former Ivorian President Henri Bedie was selected as the candidate of the opposition Democratic Party of Côte d'Ivoire for the October 2020 presidential election this Monday. The announcement was made by the former president himself, who noted he was elected with 99.7% of the vote following a party convention. Konan Bedie served as president of Ivory Coast from 1993 until 1999 when he was ousted in a coup. Meanwhile, the ruling RHDP party of current President Alassane Ouattara has not yet nominated an alternative presidential candidate following the death of Prime Minister Amadou Coulibaly earlier this month. The presidential elections are set to take place on October 31st.
Ces résultats mettent en évidence un taux de participation de 94,08% et mon élection avec un score de 99,70% des suffrages exprimés. Un véritable plébiscite. La joie qui m'anime ce jour est immense. Je me sens heureux et fier d'avoir été élu comme candidat du PDCI-RDA à l'élection présidentielle du 31 octobre.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the reimposition of COVID-19 restrictions, including a ban on alcohol sales and a nationwide curfew this Monday.
That there shall be no sale of alcoholic beverages or drinks in eateries and restaurants across the territory of the Republic of Kenya, effective midnight today for the next 30 days. That the closing time for restaurants and eateries has been amended from 8 p.m. to 7 p.m. starting today at midnight for the next 30 days. That all bars shall remain closed.
And the Kenyan president also noted that the COVID-19 death toll has reached 280, stressing that the country is at war with an invisible enemy.
We are going to suffer a catastrophe. The harsh reality, my friends, is that we are at war. At war with an invisible enemy who is relentless in their desire for destruction.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday officially opened 3 new COVID-19 testing facilities in New Delhi, Mumbai and Kolkata. According to his office, each testing facility is capable of analysing as many as 10,000 tests a day. Speaking via video conference, Modi claimed India had taken the right decisions at the right time during the pandemic and was in a controlled situation compared to other countries. India's Chief Medical Research Agency says the country tested over 500,000 samples for COVID-19 on Sunday. The almost 50,000 new cases reported on Monday brought India's nationwide tally to beyond 1.4 million, representing the world's third highest after the United States and Brazil.
Millions of citizens of the country have been fighting with the coronavirus pandemic bravely. Today, we are launching a high-tech testing facility The efforts of West Bengal, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh will be further threatened in their fight against the corona pandemic. Friends, the way right decisions were taken at the right time has resulted in our country being in a far controlled situation compared to other countries. The rate of deaths are far lower in our country compared to many big countries. In January, we had just one center for corona testing, and today 1,300 labs are working around the country. Today in India, we're conducting more than 500,000 tests a day, and efforts are on to take the testing ability to 1 million a day in the next few weeks.
उसी का परिणाम है कि भारत
More than 80,000 cases of COVID-19 have now been reported across the African continent. According to information from the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the continent has reported a COVID-19 death toll of over 17,000. South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria and Morocco remain the worst hit nations. In Lebanon, 168 new COVID-19 cases and 4 more deaths are recorded over the past 24 hours. According to the Health Ministry, the new cases take the country's overall tally since February 21st to more than 3,000, while the death toll now stands at 51. Meanwhile, 137 patients were hospitalized for coronavirus over the past 24 hours, including 34 who admitted into intensive care units. Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi on Monday ordered an investigation into the death of 2 demonstrators following violent clashes with security forces in the capital, Baghdad.
Youths had a legitimate right to protest yesterday. Security forces are not permitted to fire a single bullet against our brothers, the demonstrators. We have opened an investigation into all that happened yesterday in Tahrir Square, and I asked the results to be in front of me within 72 hours.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesoenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Teleso English, I'm Katrina Goss and thank you for watching.